Merry Christmas and happy holidays, you goddamn freaks of nature. I come bearing the only present that matters, and that is the gift of gains. I am the biggest and heaviest that I have ever been at 222 pounds, which was the peak of my last bulk. This is prime bulking season, where my body is in the perfect spot. It is full of carbs, it is full of glycogen, I'm at a decent body fat percentage, and I'm in a groove with my training with still until April, May to continue bulking and making those gains. So it's also the perfect time to start implementing the things that I've been experimenting with and locking in my program for the biggest muscle building season of the year. So in this video, we're gonna go over my priorities when it comes to muscle groups, the different things that I'm changing within my training to get those goals, and the things that I'm keeping the same because they're so goddamn good. I'm going to go over all of the exercises that I'm going to do to get absolutely as jacked and stacked as possible with this bulk. And if you want to see how I program these exercises and make so many sets work cohesively and synergistically within my program, check out the DEMIGOD protocol. I not only have a video that's over an hour long going over all the nitty-gritty specifics of how this functions and where you can start and build up to my level, but I also have individual videos on each of the days that I do. Check them out. There's a playlist on my channel and it's extremely informative. But let's get into how you can choose exercises to get absolutely jacked and stacked. But before we get into that, I'd like to ask you guys to subscribe and then leave a comment about something you've learned or what you're prioritizing this bulk. I don't really give a shit about likes because I'd rather just talk to the few of you that are here. But anyways, let's get into it. With my muscle groups ranked in terms of importance, I think you'd be pretty surprised about where some things sit. Starting off with number one, which is calves. Who has calves as their number one priority this bulk? I don't see anybody else raising their hand, so it's just me because I am sick and tired of having mediocre to, in the past, small calves. That ends here. I'm at a point where my physique is already advanced, so taking my leg days and prioritizing calves instead of quads and hamstrings is something that I can do to bring my physique to the next level. But moving on from there, we have number two, which is chest with an upper chest emphasis, because I want that goddamn shelf of a chest. I want to rival Arnold as a natty. And number three, we have triceps with a long head focus, because I could use some more sweep on my front double bicep, and that's where the majority of the mass is, because I kind of want to get gigantic arms overall, not just on a natty scale at 18 inches, but I want to be like, holy shit, man, is that even possible natural? Sitting at 19 inches or so. And then number number four is biceps and brachialis to also bring those arms to the next level. I really want to bring up my bicep peak and maybe even have it rise higher than my shoulder peak here. And then as for the brachialis, I'm trying to get those thick, nasty arms from the side. Number five is back. I've always had a little trouble with back training and my connection to that muscle group, mainly because it's a bunch of muscles all over pulling in different directions, but it is a top 5 emphasis for me this year. Probably higher than that in terms of volume, but in terms of me caring about aesthetics, it sits at number 5, right above number 6, which is forearms. Crazy, right? But just like the calves, I want to bring these things through the next level. Like, I got like decent forearms, like they're pretty big, but like, I mean, they could be better. Number 7 is shoulders, probably my strongest and biggest body part. And so it's still getting a solid amount of emphasis because it makes this top 10, but it is on the back burner a little bit. In the future, once I've evened out my body parts a bit, I plan on doing a shoulder specialization year where I treat a lot of the movements like compound movements, and I'm excited to see how wide I get in the future. But for now, it's kind of just grow, but I don't really care about making them as massive as possible, this bulk. And that leads me to number 8, erectors, number 9, quads, hamstrings. I'm just going to combine those two because their volume is equivalent. And then number 10, abs. These are at the bottom of the list, but that does not mean that I don't still give conscious effort and try to grow them. I just don't really have the bandwidth and the programming capacity to give them a ton of volume to make them grow at the maximal rate. But it's okay because I don't really want that big of legs. I've got 27 plus inch legs, and the only thing that I am a little sad about is not being able to do more erector volume. but doing back extensions alone doesn't really grow my erectors as much as heavy hinges like deadlifts, and I don't have the work capacity to fit those into my program and not be gassed from all the other upper body work that I'm doing. So for now, they're going to be sitting at the bottom of the list because I already have these developed enough that I am happy. And as for specific goals, which I don't really set, but this is where I could realistically expect myself next fall when I hit the same weight at an earlier period in time, because that's how it works. I hit this weight in like April last year, and now I'm hitting it in December. So next year I expect to be at 222 pounds, maybe in October or so, as I build more muscle and the bulk starts at a higher point. So I would say that I could have 17-inch calves. I'm currently at 16, 19-inch arms. I'm currently at 18 and some change, probably closer to 18 and a half on my left arm, if not 18 and a half. And then I want the absolute shelf of a chest and an insane V-taper. I don't know how to measure my lats and chest very well. I never get the tape measure right, so I just kind of go by visual appeal. And then I think I could get 14.5-inch forearms. They're currently at 14 now. And then I want legs that still fit in my pants, but are more aesthetically developed. I don't really want the bigger size there because they are kind of chafing. My abductors grow way faster than everything else. And so even if I just squat, those things get bigger and bigger without me even trying. And I don't really want the bulbous turkey leg look like the modern bodybuilders of today. I prefer that golden era, silver era, sleek look that the V-taper tapers down to the quads and then the calves. All right, now that we've established my goals and priorities, let's talk about what I'm doing for each muscle group to get there. Kicking it off with chest, because that's what we all really care about here, right? Big ol' milkers that we're trying to build, which I do 18 sets spread over 2 days. For my day one, my first upper day, I used to do incline bench, dips, and then a low-high fly. I am keeping that incline bench because this is my go-to movement for the next couple years because I am trying to build that absolute shelf of a chest. I have swapped dips out for flat dumbbell press because I feel a better chest connection and I think I will get more growth with that exercise. Dips are an excellent shoulder health, chest builder, tricep builder, all around bang for your buck exercise, but I need something more pinpointed at this point. And I'm keeping those low-high flies, but I'm trying them on a bench here to remove some of the cheat and really zero in on that upper chest. As I talked about, this is my focus. I want to establish an unmatched natty shelf. As for day two, I did flat dumbbell press, ring push-up, and then pec deck. I'm swapping that flat dumbbell press back to day one like I talked about and putting in one of my heavy hitters, the incline dumbbell press. There's certain exercises that you just know build solid, serious mass, but you can't do them all the time because you get a little bit bored, they get a little bit stale, and you run into a rut with them. Incline dumbbell press is one of my GOAT muscle building exercises. So that's when it gets serious in this bulk phase. I swap it back in to add that mass with an exercise that I know will get the job done. And I'm obviously keeping ring push-ups in because they are an insane bang for your buck chest exercise. And then when you incorporate mechanical drop sets, changing the way you press and you fly on them, you can get crazy chest work targeting not only that upper chest, but then once that's demolished, the rest of your chest as an absolutely diabolical movement that should be way more common in gyms. The pec deck is getting a little bit stale for me. It just does not feel as good as it did years ago. I think my shoulders are getting too big, especially my rear delts. If I can't get as great of a stretch on it, and my front delts tend to take over no matter where I set the seat. So I've been experimenting with a dumbbell fly, which feels great, but I can't keep myself from turning it into a mechanical drop set where I then go to fly press and then regular dumbbell press. This destroys my chest. But sometimes I worry it's a little bit too much when included with the ring push-up mechanical drop set. But then again, I'm trying to build the shelf of the gods, so I think this is what I'm going to be doing for this bulk. Since I've acclimated in my program and I'm used to the volume, I can start incorporating this in 1 set, then 2 sets, then 3 sets, instead of just jumping into it all full bore for 3 sets. So I'll do dumbbell flies, and then for 1 or 2 sets, I'll do dumbbell flies mechanical drop set. And hopefully by the end of the bulk, I can do this for all 3 sets and it just be an absolute ripper for my chest. Since I don't plan on adding any more sets or exercises to my program currently, Things like this are a great way to volume blast. This, along with Intel Death Dynamic Double Progression, add this volume in without making it 1, permanent, or 2, extremely in the way. Like you have to go find a new superset to pair it with, or you have to do an exercise by itself, and then you have to deal with conflicting fatigue from the other exercises. No, you can just choose 1 to 3 sets to do it for, and then do it as a mechanical drop set. So it's essentially the same movement, and you're still in the same motion, and you can count it as 1 set, but while getting more volume. A great way to test things out for future programming. And now on to triceps, which I do 18 sets per week over 3 days. For day number 1, I had tricep rope pushdown and 1 arm overhead extension. I specialize in the tricep rope pushdown, and I max out the cable stack for high reps. So in the spirit of emphasizing long head of the tricep like I talked about, I'm going to be swapping in another heavy hitter, the overhead rope extension, which I took off of my arm day, the gunslinger. This is my greatest tricep exercise of all time. And just like the incline dumbbell press, I don't want it to get too stale, so I swap it in probably 6 months at a time. And this is also a theme that I'm going to be carrying for the rest of my tricep days. I'm going to be doing my long head exercise as the primary slot, so I can really zero in and move some serious weight on that and build some serious mass. Now this day is absolutely diabolical and the long head focus of my week, because my second exercise is still the 1 arm overhead extension, and paired with a new lat exercise that I'm doing, which is the neutral grip bar pullover, I am getting absolutely destroyed on triceps. I did it yesterday, and I can barely lift my arm for how sore my tricep is from these 4 movements. I need to come up with a cooler name than overhead rope extension. It's got to be like Thor's hammer or something. Like I'm fucking something cool, because it's such a good movement with such a lame name. It's now known as Thor's hammer. And so for day 2, I had long rope pushdowns and Thor's hammer. And so I'm still keeping those long rope pushdowns, but moving them to the second slot. And for the first slot, I am doing Thor's hammer, but a seated, more stable version with a bar. This is the stricter version of Thor's hammer on day 1, where I use a lot of body English to complete the reps. Here, it's all about grinding through that long head and being extremely stable by sitting on that bench, which is a game changer. I used to do it standing up, but it didn't feel nearly as good as this. And then I still very much enjoy the long rope pushdowns for the unique pushdown feel that they give, so I'm keeping those in the second slot. But like the rest of my pushdowns, which you'll see on day 3, I am dropping the weight back using stricter form so that I can build back up to the max stack by the end of this bulk without having to just slap plates on. And also it's good to do form resets every once in a while. After you hit a certain weight, you can do the same movement, but it kind of acts as a different movement entirely when you clean up the form and make it a lot stricter. And so when you make it back up to that weight with the stricter form, you're obviously stronger and bigger from it. And speaking of day 3, I used to do rope pushdowns and skull crushers. I'm still keeping those rope pushdowns, but moving them to the second slot. For the first slot, I'm doing skull crushers, but instead of with a bar, I'm going back to neutral grip dumbbell decline skull crushers. Also feel like those need a cooler name without so many descriptors. But I did these on my gunslinger day for the last year, and they're extremely effective. I do have to warm up my elbows by doing some light pushdowns beforehand, but the amount of stretch that you can get, the body English that you can use, especially with your feet locked into a decline bench, is crazy. I love these for the combination of cheat that you can use, the grindability that you get, and the past failure reps that are available. An S-tier tricep builder. Now for biceps and brachialis, I'm doing 21 sets per week over 3 days. For day 1, I used to do alternating dumbbell curls and close grip preacher curls. Those alternating dumbbell curls have served me well. I did them the majority of this year and worked up to 60 pounds for 2 sets of 12 and then 55 pounds for a set of 12. But they're a little stale now and a little grindy, and going up to 65 pounds is not an option at my gym since they jump straight to 70. And as cool as it is to curl 70s, I can't really do it for the amount of reps that I want to. So I'm swapping it for hammer curls, as I want to target more brachialis. Previously, I'd only had one exercise in the hammer position, and I think this is an emphasis that I dually need if I'm going to get to 19-inch arms. And so this combined with my close grip preacher curl, which is staying there, is going to blow up my arms. I am specializing in the preacher curl and still am continuing to do that. I'm curling the big boy wheels now with the 45s, and my end goal is to get 135 for a set of 10. So that's a fully loaded barbell for a clean set of 10 on preacher curls. I gotta have 19-inch arms if I get to that. As for day 2, my actual arm day, I'm doing regular preacher curls as my main driver for weight. So the other days that I do preacher curls, it's essentially to boost this one up. And then I'm doing my concussion curl and then 1 arm hammer curls on the preacher curl bench. Also feel like that needs a cooler name with shorter amount of descriptors. But this is staying the same because it fucking works. All of these exercises, except for the concussion curl, which I just invented, but I can feel working, have been tried and true. So there's no reason for me to swap them out because I'm definitely not bored of any of them yet. And the same goes for my day 3, which I have incline curls and machine preacher curls. I love the machine preacher curl. It is a different feeling, a different resistance curve from the regular bar preacher curl, which is super refreshing while still getting the same amount of stimulus and sick pump. As for incline curls, I know they're a movement that works, but I'm still experimenting and figuring it out. Sometimes it takes years of doing something before it finally clicks. And so this bulk, I'm going to try to figure out this exercise because I know that it builds mass and has serious potential. Now for back, I do 24 sets a week spread over 3 days. On day 1, I used to do pull-ups, 1 arm rows, and then dumbbell pullovers. I am still doing pull-ups now, but because I'm fully acclimated to the amount of volume that I'm doing and the work capacity that it takes, I'm ripping through my workouts. So it's time to up the ante. And now I'm doing weighted pull-ups with a drop set to body weight pull-ups. Especially at how heavy I am now, these are an absolute compound movement for the back. This is something I've done in previous years, and I still do. I do pull-ups all throughout the year to maintain the skill of the motion, and then when shit gets serious, I start putting on the weight and adding in the drop sets. As for my second exercise, I really cannot find a 1-arm row that I like. Cable rows are okay 1-armed. I've done the machine ones, they just don't connect with me. So I'm thinking about swapping it to an upper back row to get nice and thick. The upper back development for me has essentially been getting carried by my rear delt exercises, and it may be time to start devoting some actual volume to my mid traps. So that's what I think I'm going to start doing here. And that makes this day my upper back emphasis day when you take into account the shoulder exercises, which I'll talk about later. And as for my third back exercise, I have swapped it to the neutral grip hammer pullover, which I still need to figure out a way to shorten these names because it's not as cool sounding as this exercise deserves. Maybe just the hammer pullover. There you go. That's a little bit better. But this absolutely demolishes your lats. And I usually do my pullovers laying perpendicular to the bench, but with my feet locked into this decline bench, set at a flat angle. So I guess it's a flat bench with a feet locking component. Well, anyways, I'm able to stretch even farther out than I would be able to because my body will not tilt over the bench. And then you can pull closer and less strict, getting more triceps involved and more lats rather than serratus as you go on. This is crazy. I've never had my triceps and lats burning as badly as they do with this exercise. I got kind of stale of dumbbell pullovers. I was doing over 100 pounds. And this is a great way to save my wrist and still get an amazing stimulus. As for day 2, my arm day where I also do back exercises, I'm just checking the box for volume. Because the back recovers quicker, I'm able to sneak in some more lat work here with a machine pullover and wide grip pull-ups, which I may switch to a lat pull down with the wide grip, but I'm really hesitant to not do my pull-ups twice a week because it's a skilled movement and also I feel like I'm betraying the pull-up god. If you want a wide back, you do pull-ups. And if you're betraying the pull-up god by only doing them once a week, I feel like that's a disrespect that's going to carry on to my physique. This is superstitious, but it also might be true. But that leads me to day 3, where I did barbell rows, 1-arm pull-downs, and pullovers with a lat bar. Now this stays essentially the same. I have a love-hate relationship with barbell rows. They sound cool to do, but then once it's time to do it, I'm like, fuck man. I don't want to load up that much weight for a barbell row. So I think I'm going to do a pyramid, but not slanting all the way up, I'm going to do a volume set, a heavier set, and then another volume set. So for me, this looks like 225 for 12, 275 for like 8, and then 225 for 12 again. Anyways, yeah, I know it's an amazing exercise, and I need this for my erectors because I don't do a whole lot of erector work. But fuck, man, barbell rows are just not my favorite. It's one of those things that I just dog out because I know how effective it is. As for my one arm pull downs, this is something I've never really exploited. I've always done all my back work with 2 arms. And so, well, I mean, I do it with 2 arms anyways, but 1 arm at a time. But anyways, the point of this is to get an extra stretch on the lat and really zero in. This helps with the back connection, which is something I've had a problem with in the past. And I need to find more ways to implement this in the future more. Once back moves up in priority on my list, maybe one day it'll eclipse calves, you never know. I do believe I'll be doing a whole lot of one arm pullovers and pull downs. As for my cable pullovers, I have swapped to doing it with the rope because you can mechanically drop set it into a row, which I find really nice for just chucking in some extra back volume overall. And I mean, I was getting a little bored of the wide bar. And as the pullover is a finisher exercise, it's not quite as important in this position as it would be, for example, on my middle day where I'm doing it first. I'm very much prone to using less variation the higher priority an exercise is on the day that it is being done. So if it's the third exercise for chest, I'm going to do a lot of experimentation. I'm not going to take it quite as seriously as my first one, where I'm going to lock the fuck in and make sure my factors are the same week after week. Now, as for calves and forearms, I'm going to leave you guys with a teaser because I am doing 18 sets of calves plus drop sets for each one of those sets, plus 18 sets for the tibialis on the front of the calf, plus 27 sets for forearms. And this is going to be a separate video in its entirety of how I'm planning to blow up the forgotten muscle groups. So there's your little teaser, and be looking forward to that video for the exact training protocols that I'm using. Now on to shoulders. Despite not being a priority, I still slam them with a bunch of volume at 21 sets per week over 3 days. On day 1, I used to do the lateral raise machine that's locked in at the elbows, and then the thickinator. Thank you, Jeffrey Verity Schofield, for that one. Now, the lateral raise machine was essentially me checking a box because I did not have the work capacity and also the convenience to do another exercise. Now that I'm in a different gym than when I started with that, and my work capacity has improved, I have switched to the strapped-in upright row, which is one of the greatest shoulders and yoke builders. And so I do this with quite a bit of cheat and really overload those traps and those side delts along with the rear delts. It is just an absolute atomic bomb for the muscles that make you look jacked. The thickinator stays because it's a good exercise and I also want more mid-back work, but I'm altering it to coincide with what it's supersetted, which is the low-high fly that I'm doing on a bench now. So this is more of like a reverse pec deck, but with more freedom, which I really like. As for day 2, I do the seated overhead press with the side lateral raise machine that you're strapped in at the hands. And then for my rear delt exercise, I was doing the reverse pec deck. I've made crazy progress on my seated overhead press, and I'm not going to stop that. Why would you stop the gains when they're flowing so easily? Well, not easily, because I'm grinding the shit out of the reps, but you know what I mean. And then as for the side lateral raise machine, this is probably my favorite side delt movement currently, especially with the amount that you can go past failure and with that super range of motion above your head. So that's definitely staying in. As for my rear delts, this has gotten a bit stale, even though it is an amazing movement with a reverse pec deck. So I'm swapping in another heavy hitter, my GOAT rear delt movement, which is the dumbbell rear delt fly. The amount of weighted stretch that you get from resisting the dumbbells as they go down to the bottom creates a huge pump and leads to massive shoulder growth. This is pretty much the only rear delt exercise I spammed for like 3 years straight because nothing felt as good as this does. As for day 3, I had face pulls as my opening exercise and then cable lateral raises. This stays the same, but I nearly swapped face pulls or moved them lower in the day because they weren't feeling good with the attachments that I had available, but I was finally able to craft, whether it was freaking Minecraft on my crafting block, the correct attachment for face pulls, which is 2 D handles on an extended cable. And this allows you to really rotate well and grip not being the limiting factor. So you hit those rotator cuffs and also those rear delts without either having to grab the balls on the rope or some goofy ass attachment that isn't long enough in the middle. As for the cable lateral raise, they are getting slightly stale, but I still get a great pump from them and they are an extremely effective exercise. I can feel them working, they're super isolatory and extremely grindable, pinpoint targeting your side deltoid, which of course I still care about getting wider, or else I wouldn't be doing 21 sets per week. I just care about getting bigger calves more. Now finally, I'm just going to combo these last 3 together. We have quads, hamstrings, erectors, and abs. These are not the priority, but that does not mean I don't still go hard as fuck on them. I do 9 sets quads, 9 sets hamstrings, 3 sets abs, 3 sets erectors. And for my first leg day, I was doing the high bar squat, an RDL, a hamstring curl, a leg extension, and a cable ab crunch. This all stays the same. The only thing that I'm changing is I'm not pushing weight as heavily on the high bar squat. I'm putting a squat wedge underneath my feet and sticking to a higher rep range to not only improve my work capacity, but free up lower back fatigue to smash RDLs heavy, because I don't have a lot of erector work in here and I need to make sure the lower part of my back matches the upper. I've always had really good erectors because I love deadlifting in the past, and I'm not going to lose that now. And then abs, I love the cable ab crunch. So you know what? It's so easy to slot in and not skip. As for day 2, I do leg press, hamstring curls, and then cable ab crunch or leg raises again. Now, it's the same concept of I'm still going hard as fuck on these exercises, and it will build muscle, but they're just not a priority, freeing up space for things like calves and forearms, which I really do care about and will complete my physique more than larger quads and hamstrings would. And then I don't give a shit about glutes or abductors. Those get hit while I'm squatting and RDLing, and my ass already doesn't fit in pants. So I'm not going to grow that anymore. If I please, thank God, please do not grow my ass anymore. I don't want any more cake. So that is everything that I'm doing this bulk besides the calves and forearms, which you'll have to check out another video for, to get absolutely massive. These are the things that I've been experimenting with for months before implementing. And I hope that you can take something away from this video to make some huge gains yourself. Anyways, if you enjoyed, leave a comment, like, subscribe over like, and I'm out. Peace, guys.